All right, so let's settle this once and for all. Is it cheaper to rent or is it cheaper to buy a home? So if you've been thinking about buying a home, you've probably heard all of this. Buying is always better because you're building equity. Renting is throwing money away. Buying is so expensive right now. So which one actually costs more? So today, we're going to break it down. Yep, all the hidden costs, what's going on, what's the actual cost and value of renting versus buying. So let's get started. So first up, let's look at the monthly cost comparison, right? Let's take a real world example of renting versus buying the exact same type of home. So renting, 3-bedroom house in Colorado Springs, let's say it's $2,200 a month, right? No property taxes, no maintenance costs, nothing like that because you're renting. That's the landlord's obligation. So rent can increase every single year. So got to keep that in mind. Now, buying the exact same house, let's go $400,000, and then you got 5% down at a 7% mortgage rate, right? Mortgage payment on that, taxes, insurance, all that good stuff, everything included is about $2,800 a month in this scenario. So yeah, the mortgage is more expensive than the rent by about $600, right, per month. But that's not the whole story. All right, so let's talk about the hidden costs of home ownership that renters don't have to worry about. So first thing, maintenance and repairs. Let's say the AC goes out, right? You got to have AC in the house and you don't have it, it goes out, $5,000. And if we're being honest, $5,000 is probably on the low end here in Colorado Springs, but let's just use that because, well, math is hard. The water heater goes out. Well, we all know that as of a few years ago, you have to have a licensed plumber do that in order to make it legit. Let's say $1,500 for that, which is probably about right, maybe a little more than $1,500. But let's say a roof. Rarely, if ever, do roofs get replaced in Colorado Springs. Look, the average roof here in Colorado Springs is going to be maybe 5 to 10 years. That's why we have all the insurance claims that we have because of hail. Who knows how much this is going to be, right? This could go all over the place. So when you rent, that's your landlord's problem, right? When you own, this is your problem. All of this is yours. So let's talk about property taxes and insurance for a second because that's been on everybody's mind as well. This adds hundreds of dollars per month to your mortgage payment. Yes, taxes are going up, but more importantly, insurance has skyrocketed over the last few years. So taxes and insurance, that gets tacked onto your mortgage as well. And both of those increase over time. And I know you're out there. So before you say, see, renting's cheaper, let's talk about the hidden costs of renting, which I know sounds weird since I just told you there are no maintenance costs or anything like that. But a mortgage stays fixed for 30 years, right? Rent, that can go up every single 12 months or whatever the term of your lease is. Second thing, there's no equity. You're not building wealth with that. And we've talked about that before on the channel, but when you rent, you are paying someone else's mortgage. So when you buy, your home builds value over time. That has to be considered as a hidden cost for renting. So let's talk about the 5-year wealth building comparison, right, between rent versus buying. We got to talk about that. So renter versus homeowner over 5-year time. The renter pays $2,200 a month. Rent increases 3% per year, which is pretty reasonable right now. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but let's just use that as the average. Total paid in 5 years is $138,000 for that rental. Now, you don't own anything for that $138,000. There's no equity. You didn't build any wealth in that space. So now let's talk about the homeowner. You pay that $2,800 a month. You build $50,000 in home equity over that 5-year period, and the home likely appreciates in value. So let's make this simple. Should you rent or buy? We're talking you specifically. Let's ask a couple of questions here. You should buy if you plan to stay in the home at least 5 years. If you're going to be in the home at least 5 years, you need to think about buying. You should buy if you can afford monthly payments plus the maintenance costs. Don't be house poor, especially when you come to Colorado. There's too many other fun things to do. You don't want to be house poor, so make sure you can afford the mortgage and the maintenance costs. And buy a home if you want to build equity and long-term wealth. Now, maybe you need to rent. So you need to rent if you're not sure how long you're going to be in the area. If you're just testing it out, renting may be the way to go. Maybe you don't have the savings for a down payment, or you don't have the money for the maintenance or emergency repairs. It's probably going to be best that you rent for a little while until you do have those savings beefed up a little bit. And If you don't want any responsibility or you don't want to do maintenance or anything like that, renting's absolutely the better way to go. So let's talk about the biggest mistakes that people make when they're making this decision to rent or to buy. The number one mistake people make, thinking only about the monthly payment. Instead, ask yourself things like, will buying give me a long-term stability, right? Am I financially ready for the hidden home costs, those maintenance and repairs and everything else we were talking about? Am I financially ready for that? You may not be, understood. Does renting allow me more flexibility right now? That's a very real possibility in your case. It could happen, but you need to ask yourself these questions to make sure that it's the right decision for you. So, is it cheaper to rent or buy? Let's put a bow on this thing. Short term, renting usually wins in that space. Like I said, if you're not going to be in the house for a very long time, renting may make more sense. And if you're going to be in the house long term, buying builds wealth and typically pays off far better than renting. So what do you think? Are you planning to rent or buy in the next year? That's entirely up to you. Hit the comments down below and let us know what's going on in your world. We'd love to hear your thoughts on renting versus buying. It's a really controversial topic. It's a big deal here, especially in Colorado Springs. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because we have more no bullshit home buying tips coming your way soon.